Well, hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're going to make some over-the-door shelves. Well, I'm in need for a couple shelves in my office, and I want them mounted above the doors, kind of on the facing of the door. So that's what we're going to work on today. Now, I want to make this project out of cheap materials, something that is accessible for everybody. So it's all going to start off with some big box store shelving pine, 3/4 of an inch thick. Well, this is the shelving pine. You can see that it's far from perfect. I mean, this piece underneath is a little better than this one here, but I don't mind the knots and that sort of thing. It gives it a bit of character. So this stuff here measures just over 9 inches wide. So I need two shelves. One of them has to be 29.5 inches long, and the other one is 35.5 inches long. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pieces of stock over to the table saw. I'm going to flatten or straighten one side of these boards first, and then I'm going to make the opposite side parallel over at the table saw. And once I get that done and get it dimensioned to its final dimension, I want it to be 9 inches wide, I will then use my miter fence to cross cut this to its final dimensions of, as I said, 29.5 by 35.5. And there you have it. Just kidding. Guys, I'm making two shelves, but we're going to concentrate on just one for the filming of the rest of the show. And what we can do is duplicate it for the other shelf. So I'm going to get rid of this longer one because the shorter one is much easier to film. And what we need to do now is we really need to make the brackets for this. And because these are being mounted over the door, I don't want the brackets on the bottom. I don't want them exposed. I want them on the top. So with this being 9 inches across, I want the brackets to be 2/3 of the distance in. So 2/3 of 9 inches is 6 inches. So we need some more 3/4 inch pine that is going to be at least 6 inches wide. Well, I am attempting to keep this build as simple as humanly possible. These are not fine woodworking shelves. These are more of utility shelves. You have to keep that in mind. So what I have here is I have blocks of wood for my brackets, my shelf brackets. They are 6 inches by 6 inches. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my compass in the corner. We're going to adjust it to the one edge here. We're going to tighten it up. And I'm going to draw an arc all the way across, just like that. It's a very simple design. And I'm going to do this on all 4 pieces. We're going to take them over to the scroll saw. If you don't have a scroll saw, you can use a bandsaw. And we're going to cut them just outside that line. And then we're going to finish them off up to the line over at the belt sander. Now with those brackets shaped, we want to put a round over on both sides of our curved surface, not our straight surfaces. So I have a 5/16 diameter round over bit in here. It's a bearing guided bit. Guys, don't do this without using the starter pin. And if you haven't watched my video on how to use a starter pin yet, you should really stop this video and go watch that. But you basically place your piece against your starter pin, pivot it into your bit until it contacts the bearing, and then you can carry on with your cut. It gives support for your piece and prevents kickback, and it'll go a long way to keeping your 10 little piggies on your fingers. So we're going to get the round over done on one side. We're going to flip the piece completely over and then do the round over on the opposite side. Now with all of those shaped, you don't need the starter pin anymore, but you will still need that 5/16 inch router bit. So leave it set exactly where it is, height and everything. Don't move it. We're going to move the fence a little later. Well, there's 2 more pieces that we need to cut, and those pieces will be the back support for our shelf, and will also help to solidify our brackets. Those pieces, guys, are another piece of 3/4 inch thick pine. They're cut to be 2 inches wide, and they will be the same length as our shelves. Well, what I have done over here at the router table is I have set my fence so that it is perfectly in line with the front edge of our bearing. And what we want to do is we want to choose the front face or the front edge of our shelf, and that will be the one with the least amount of flaws in it if you are using shelving pine like what I am. So what we're going to do is, just like we did on our side brackets, just on the front edge, we're going to route the one side, flip it completely over, and then route the opposite side. Now we're going to do somewhat of the same thing on our back support brackets, except we're not going to do this side and this side. On the front face, choose your front face, we're going to put a 1/4 inch or a 5/16 rather round over along each edge of the same face of the board. So we'll get that done, and then I'll show you what to do next. Well, now on each of our brackets here for our shelves, what I've done is 3 inches up from the bottom, I've drawn a line, and then 5 inches up, I've drawn a line, and I've drawn a vertical line here 3/4 of an inch in from the edge. This is going to house our braces, our back braces. However, we need to compensate for that routing that we did. So I have also included right here this 5/16 radius, which is, if you want the diameter of a circle template you use, you have to double it. So 5/16 and 5/16 is 5/8. So I've been using a 5/8 inch circle template to round off these top corners. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this over to the scroll saw, very carefully cut these out, and that will allow me to mount these brackets inside of our side brackets. Well, before we start our assembly, we have a few holes to drill. So on our back braces, we need to drill a couple holes on the back side in from the end, 3/8 of an inch, and about a 1/2 inch in from each of the edges. We'll drill some countersunk holes. We also need to drill a couple of holes to mount our side brackets, and for that we will drill a couple of holes about 1 inch in from each edge of the side brackets and 3/8 of an inch in from the edge of the board. We will drill them on the underside of our board, and again, they will be countersunk holes. Well, everything is sanded, but there are 3 holes that I neglected to mention, and those are the mounting holes. They will go on the back brace, and I have them placed 4 inches in from the end, 1 hole here centered on the 2-inch side, and then 1 dead in the center. This is what holds the main support of the shelf to the wall. So guys, we can start with the assembly now, and the assembly is going to start with our side brackets. So we have our shelf here. This is the back. We're going to pick our side brackets, drill pilot holes, line up the side edges, and line up the backs. And we will screw these together with some 2-inch screws. We're also going to add a little bit of wood glue to each joint, but you want to be very careful of squeeze out here. You'll understand that a little while later, but for now, just be very careful with your squeeze out and get your side brackets installed. Well, the last step in the assembly is to install our back brace. So we're going to place it here and line it up with flush with the ends of our side brackets. We're going to clamp it in place, drill a couple pilot holes, and we'll screw this together just like we did with these brackets here. Again, a little bit of glue, and be careful of squeeze out. And there you go. There is the brackets mounted, the back spacer mounted. Guys, what's left to do here now is we're going to clean up all of the sawdust. The reason I was so adamant about squeeze out and saying be very careful about that is because I am making these to match an existing, which the existing shelf that is over the one window is pine that has been stained walnut. And that's what we're going to do here. And while we don't see very much stain on my show, I usually like to use the actual species. I am matching a existing shelf here. So I'm going to stain these. I'm going to give them, once the stain is dry, a couple coats of varnish, and then I will install them and I'll show you what we have at that point. And there you have it. Some over-the-door shelves. Guys, these are a very simple shelf. They're very easy to make and they're very quick to make. You don't have to follow the exact design that I have provided. Maybe you want to have your side brackets mounted on the ends and have them come down beyond the door frames, kind of to sandwich the door frame to give it maybe a little more stability. Maybe you don't want to have that back brace as your support to keep it from tipping forward. Maybe you want to have it so that it has a bottom leg to give it more stability. Maybe you don't want to have that top brace at all. Maybe you want to have your shelf mount directly into the door frame. I've seen that done as well, where the side brackets come below the door frame and they nail in through the sides and down through the top. So the choice is up to you. There's a lot of different design elements that you can add to these. You can even make the side brackets some kind of design or some kind of shape. For those of you who have been around for quite a while, you may have seen me do the Swedish Chef from the Muppet shelf years ago to hold some Muppet stuffed animals above a door. Same concept. The only difference is the side brackets are a little different. So guys, this is made from inexpensive materials from your big box or hardware store. But again, if you want to use solid materials such as walnut or mahogany or maple or whatever you want to use, that is up to you. I use pine for a few reasons. Number one, it is very forgiving. It is a great beginner's wood, and I was hoping that this project would inspire some of the beginners out there. Number two, I was duplicating or matching the design or the look of an existing shelf, which is pine stained walnut. Also, pine is lightweight, so having that shelf up there, the weight of the wooden shelf is not already adding to the stress of the mounting hardware, pulling it forward from the weight, because this is a 9-inch wide shelf. It's a fairly wide shelf to have above a door frame, but either way, it's you don't want to add the extra weight to put the extra stress on the hardware. So guys, if you are interested in this kind of a project, you don't have to do exactly what I've done here today. You can take it, modify it, make it your own. What I'm doing here is presenting an idea, and I love it when you guys take it and run with it and do your own thing. I want to thank you so much for tuning in this week. I hope you've enjoyed the show. If you have found anything about today's show either interesting, entertaining, or heck, even if you've liked it, why not like and subscribe to the channel? We have an amazing audience base here, and I'm hoping that you're going to consider becoming a part of that. Once again, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the project. I hope you're going to give this a whirl for yourself and give yourself a little extra storage options above your eye level. And more importantly, guys, I hope you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another woodworking video.